Hello, I'm Jessica Rowe. You might know my face from the telly. I'm a news presenter, I'm a journalist, but I'm also a mum. That's my most important job. I've got two beautiful little girls, and life is good, but it hasn't always been good. I had postnatal depression, and I remember at the time feeling like it was the end of my world. I'd always wanted to be a mum. I had IVF and I finally was pregnant with my beautiful Miracle. And when my beautiful Allegra was finally born, I thought I would be the happiest woman in the world, and I wasn't. And that made me feel really ashamed because I thought, I have everything I have ever wanted in my life. I have a beautiful husband, a much longed for baby. Why do I feel so wretched? I felt, as I said, ashamed. I tried to, I suppose, ignore how I was feeling. And how I was feeling was like I was losing my mind. I felt like I was going crazy. I've always been someone who's been very organised and in control, and I thought to myself, why can't I be in charge of this situation? Why can't I be a good mum? And I really gave myself a hard time. I was so exhausted. I had problems breastfeeding. I thought, I can't even breastfeed my baby. I must be a bad mum. Although I was so tired, I couldn't sleep at night. I felt exhausted, but I had these thoughts that kept going around and around in my mind, very anxious thoughts and obsessive thoughts at times. I used to worry about what might happen to Allegra. And it wasn't just the normal sort of worry that you have. It was really way out of kilter with the reality of what was happening around me. So like I said, I really felt like I was losing my mind. I felt like I was this crazy woman. I didn't tell anybody because I felt that I had to keep up this brave face. I used to walk out the front door with Allegra in the pram, and if anyone was looking at me, they would have thought, this woman has it together. She knows what she's doing. But I didn't. I was adrift and I felt at sea. And I remember, ironically, getting some information about postnatal depression. And I was looking at this checklist of symptoms thinking, yep, that's me, that's me, that's me. But I kept thinking, if I ignore this, it will go away. But of course it didn't go away. It got worse. My obsessive, anxious thoughts got worse. I started to feel like I was having panic attacks, and I also felt very disconnected. It was like there was a pane of glass between me and everybody else. And I remember going along to a mother's group, and it wasn't a great mother's group, and people were saying, oh, isn't this the happiest time of your life, and doesn't it just get better and better, and isn't it fantastic? And it wasn't. I didn't have the courage to actually say, you know what, it isn't the happiest time of my life. It's the most wretched time of my life. And no, it's not getting better, it's getting worse. I was afraid of being judged, and I was afraid about what that meant for me as a mum. I knew though I had to talk to somebody. I couldn't keep doing this on my own, and I couldn't keep putting on this brave face. So I spoke to my mum. And she was beautiful. She understood, but she said, you need to talk to your husband. You can't keep pretending. So one particular night, I put Allegra down to bed and I spoke to my darling husband. And it was one of the hardest conversations I've had to have because I felt that I was being a failure by saying I wasn't coping. And I remember we were sort of sitting there in the lounge room and he was saying, oh, isn't it great and lovely? And I thought, oh, now's my chance. So I said to him, no, it's not so great. I'm struggling and it's getting worse, and I think I have postnatal depression. And the darling man that he was, he took me in his arms and he said to me, it's going to be all right. And that was just what I needed to hear. So for the first time in a long time, I thought it will be okay. I knew I had a way to go, but I asked for help. And it is so important to ask for help, to actually put voice to what you're feeling on the inside. Because the thing is, you are not the only one Even though you feel like you're the only woman who's feeling like this, believe me, there are so many other mums just like you and me who are doing it tough. I then the next day saw my doctor. Peter arranged for that. I was lucky I was able to see her straight away. She then organised for me to see a psychiatrist the following day. And I remember going in to see my psychiatrist, and yet again I put on a nice dress and my lipstick, and I walked in and she said to me, "You can stop pretending." And that was almost such a relief too, because I thought I don't have to keep putting on this brave face and, oh, I'm coping and isn't everything great. And I poured my heart out to her, and I said, I'm feeling like this, I'm having these scary thoughts, I'm a failure, I'm all these sorts of things. And I thought she was going to say, "Oh, this is terrible," and blah, blah, blah. But she said to me, "You know what? That's normal." And I said, "Normal? What do you mean normal? I'm this crazy lady. I'm not normal." She said, "Yes, what you are feeling is normal for somebody who has postnatal depression." And again, I started to feel a little weight come off my shoulders. It was sort of this little sense of, I can exhale a little bit. And for me, what I did, I saw my doctor weekly to begin with, and I started antidepressants. And I know that's a very personal thing for many people, but I was eager to give myself a bit of chemical help to get back to being me and to focus on being a mum and focus on my beautiful baby. And my doctor and I still see my psychiatrist, we laugh now because she said, "I haven't ever really had a patient who's been so eager to get started on medication." But I thought, no, I want to do everything I can to give myself and my family the best possible chance. And I'll never forget, I remember about maybe 4 weeks after I'd begun my medication, Allegra was asleep and I was standing in our front lawn, and I could smell the jasmine again. And I hadn't smelt that beautiful spring smell for a long time. And it wasn't as if I suddenly went, "Woohoo, I'm back," but I could feel this lovely sense of an upswing, a change in the breeze, a sense that it will be okay. And that was, I suppose, the beginning of me starting to come back to being me again. And it took more time, but what I learnt was I wasn't a failure. I wasn't a bad mum. It didn't mean that I didn't love my baby because I was having these thoughts. I simply had postnatal depression. I had an illness that needed to be treated. And once I got that necessary treatment, I could sort of return to being me again. And it breaks my heart to think that you're out there feeling that you're doing this on your own, because you don't have to. There is a way through, and I know it can feel, when you're in the midst of it all, I will never ever feel better, and I will never ever stop feeling like this. You will feel better. But to do that, put your hand up and talk to somebody. I think even by watching this, it's a sign that you are looking for help. You're looking for a lifeline, so to speak. And I urge you to talk to somebody. You are not a failure. You are not a bad mum. You are somebody who is just having a bit of a rough patch. And believe me, there is a way through it. I found my way, and I know you'll find yours.